believed in other mysterious beings such as the jinn, ghost-like figures who would hang around abandoned ruins and dark places.
Nah.
We also know
No. Oh my god. Look, it is 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm literally in a room by myself. No. I have to go and sleep after this video. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna get sleep paralysis. Religion in pre-Islamic Arabia. Definitely looking forward to seeing this. 100%.
When we look at a religion and its development from a historical and scholarly perspective, rather than through a theological or apologetic lens, one of the most important aspects to keep in mind is the historical context in which the religion emerges. This is, of course, also true for the religion of Islam. The Prophet Muhammad, on whom the Islamic religion is based, basically, lived and preached in Western Arabia in the 7th century. So what was...
Seen a lot of Christians saying that Prophet Muhammad was a false prophet. Very interestingly enough. Now, it's funny because Prophet Muhammad, technically, the definition of a prophet in Islam is different from a prophet in Christianity. So it's like, which definition do you follow, right? I mean, obviously, if you're Christian, you're gonna follow the Christian definition of a prophet. If you're a Muslim, you're gonna follow the Muslim definition of a prophet. And I say this because after Jesus died on the cross, quite frankly speaking, if you look at it through the Christian lens, it was basically like, all right, yeah, Jesus died. He showed us he died for our sins. Everybody now, there was literally no need for like prophets anymore after that. Because it was like, oh wow, God is real. He's clearly showed us everything that we need to see. We now have a choice, and boom, right? So it's like, from a Christian perspective, Islam came after Christianity and Judaism. So from a Christian perspective, you could just look at that and just be like, why would Prophet Muhammad be a prophet when Jesus already came and showed everybody that, this is how things are, right? He died for our sins, and now he gave us a choice, right? Like, why is there a prophet? Why is there a need for another prophet, right? So I don't know, it's such a wonky thing that I was thinking about when I saw a lot of people talking about how Prophet Muhammad was a false prophet. We're like only 30 seconds into the video. Let's continue, though.
The historical, social, religious, and intellectual context and environment.
But let me know what you think, though. Oh my goodness, this might start some arguments in the comments.
That led to this massive event, or in more general terms, what was the religious landscape like in pre-Islamic Arabia? The classic or common narrative is pretty straightforward and simple. The Arabs were polytheistic pagans who worshipped many different gods before the arrival of Islam, after which everyone basically became monotheistic Muslims. The main
So
source...
it's like, how did they come to the conclusion of where did they get these gods from is my question. Like this is the thing that interests me. Like, how did they get the idea that these gods existed, right? That's what I'm curious about.
Or sources that had been used both historically and mostly today also in describing pre-Islamic Arabia has actually been, on the one part, the Sira literature, or the biography literature of the Prophet Muhammad, written by Muslim authors a few centuries after his life. Furthermore, perhaps the most important source that we have is the text called Kitab al-Asnam, or the Book of Idols, written by Hisham ibn al-Kalbi in the 9th century. For obvious reasons, these sources are very problematic in several ways. They were, of course, written with a specific purpose in mind to legitimize the Islamic monotheistic tradition as triumphant over the backwardness of the pre-Islamic Arabs. In the words of the scholar Ahmed al-Jalad, quote, "Paganism was an established trope used to bring into sharp relief the distinction between Islamic practice and what came before." It goes without saying that these accounts are biased and polemical in nature, and that the people that are actually talked about, the people who actually practiced the polytheistic religions of pre-Islamic Arabia, get to have no say in telling the story about their own religious tradition. But that isn't to say that everything that Ibn al-Kalbi or the Sira biographers write is inaccurate. Far from it, actually. A lot of the information that a person like Ibn al-Kalbi gives us is actually often confirmed by the archaeological evidence, and it's still a very good source to use. But to get a picture that is more balanced, nuanced, and historically accurate, we need to look elsewhere. Luckily for us, the last few years has seen an absolute explosion of activity when it comes to scholarship on ancient Arabia. Archaeological excavations and expeditions are continuously conducted in northern Arabia and other places, as well as by amateur archaeologists across the Arabian Peninsula that are turning up some absolutely revolutionary findings. For example, many rock inscriptions from the ancient Arabs give us first-hand accounts of the culture and tradition and religion of this sort of lost culture. And once we start to look at the new scholarly and
so then we're like 3 minutes into the video. I mean, like, how in the world could they like lose record of that? I'm not too familiar with the history of Arabia. Like with Egypt, it kind of makes sense for the whole pyramids why that would eventually become lost, because Egypt had a very turmoil history. I'm not sure about Arabia. Arabia, just to me, before Islam came, kind of just seemed like a desolate, arid desert wasteland. It's like, how in the world do you lose that? I don't know. What did the Arabs not keep records of this type of stuff? Interesting.
Archaeological findings, a picture emerges that is a lot more complicated than the simple classical narrative that I presented at the beginning. So with the latest scholarly research in mind, let's take a look at the fascinating world of religion in pre-Islamic Arabia. Late antiquity was a very vibrant period, and Arabia was not isolated from the major historical events and happenings of the time. Indeed, scholars realize more and more just how much Arabia and the Arabs participated in the wider culture of the Middle East, being a major part of trade routes and often being vassals to great empires. Now, talking about pre-Islamic Arabia gives us pretty enormous spans of time in which things could, of course, differ and change a lot, but we're going to focus mainly...
I am not too surprised by that. What I'm confused about is, like, you know, like, how could they not keep records of this type of stuff that they worshipped, or, you know, the type of culture that they had before Islam? Like, what? You know, if Arabia was involved with these big empires, which, you know, knew how to read, write, kept records of their stuff, I don't know, let's see.
On the period very shortly before the Prophet Muhammad, on the eve of Islam, as it is sometimes called. The Middle East at this time was dominated by two major empires, the Byzantine or Eastern Roman Empire and the Sasanian.
This is the first real large map that I have ever seen from any history channel, like a whole, this isn't the world map, but this is the first map kind of I mean, obviously it's not gonna be accurate, of course. This is like, usually in these videos or anything that I'm learning about from history, they usually don't really give a detailed map like this. And I always used to wonder, who were these other places? Wow. This is the first real detailed map, like widespread map. I know I'm repeating that, but I'm just really baffled because this is like the first time I've ever seen something like this. Usually, you know, they just show a map of the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire, maybe some places from Caucasia, and maybe some places in Arabia, like the Ghassanids or whatever the heck it's called, or and the Lakhmids, and that's it. No other detail. Whoa, this is wow. I wish I could see more maps like this. It would help me learn so much more history better, really and truly.
And Persian Empire, Arabia being basically sandwiched in between the two. The Byzantine Empire at this time were Christians, and the Sasanian Persians generally followed the Zoroastrian religion. An important aspect to remember is that the Arabs...
What is this Zoroastrian religion? What the hell is that? What is that? What is it? Someone explain that to me.
We're not a...
Actually, if there's any way I can learn about it, please suggest it to me.
Unified and homogeneous group of people at this time. Arabia consisted of a number of different tribes and clans whose affiliations and traditions could differ. For example, at this time were the Lakhmids of northeastern Arabia, who allied themselves with the Sasanian Empire and were primarily polytheistic. On the other hand, there were the Ghazanids of northwestern Arabia, who functioned as a client state to the Byzantine Empire and who were mostly Christians. So already we can see a diversity here, and things get even more complicated. In general, looking at the various archaeological evidence that we have, like rock inscriptions for example, we can conclude that most of the inhabitants of the Arabian Peninsula historically did follow a kind of polytheism or paganism. The details of this religious tradition is quite obscure and unknown, but we do know a few things. The ancient Arabs worshipped a number of different deities and gods. Some of these gods were associated with a specific place or with a specific tribe and so on. There were also sanctuaries for different deities located all around Arabia, which worshippers could visit. Many of these deities also seem to have representations of natural phenomena or abstract concepts. One example is the god Shams, which literally means sun. The historian Robert J. Hoyland writes, quote, "Loosely, of course, the gods represented those forces that were important to the lives of their devotees but beyond their control: rain, fertility, health, love, death, and so on. By seeking the favor of the gods..."
So, you know, in my previous reaction to Arabia before Islam, I mentioned how I had a theory, like a hypothesis, just an educated guess that maybe these religions might all be intertwined and they might all believe in the same God. Maybe they just have different perspectives on it. Because I mentioned how the slaves from Africa, when the slaves were sold to the British, not sure about the other Europeans, but the British, when they were brought to my country, again emphasizing the point that the African kingdoms had already enslaved some of their own people, and the British came and they sold them off. So they were already enslaved by other Africans, because I swear to God, Lord forgive me for saying your name in vain, but I swear to God, I do not want to see any fucking comments. And I usually don't swear, but I am actually annoyed by seeing these comments of people bringing up slavery, blah blah blah, slavery, you know, like they were already slaves and they simply were sold out to the Europeans. It is what it is. But the slaves Okay, when they were in the colony of Barbados, I mentioned how they didn't really have a hard time converting to Christianity because coincidentally, Christianity and their religion that they were already doing up in Africa was already similar. It was eerily very similar, actually. So, and I actually had a theory where the reason why we can't see God, because it states that if we tried to see God and what he looks like, we would be destroyed. So God can't really reveal himself. I said that the universe is gargantuan. I would basically say I think God is way bigger. Like, I'm talking like ridiculously massive, right? Because, you know, the word of God states that in a new heaven and new earth, there won't be a need for a sun because God's light is enough, right? So, you know, if you take that into consideration and the fact that we can't look at God, we can't see God, or we'll be destroyed, I said that maybe God might have some properties like a star. Think about it. You know, the stars are huge to us anyways. We need stars for life, right? Life wouldn't be possible without, you know, our sun, which obviously is a star. But, you know, if we get too close to the sun, we'll be destroyed. We'll be incinerated quite literally instantly. You know, in fact, if you look at the sun, you'll be blind. You'll be blind. Literally, that's why we can't look at the sun. So it's like, I think, you know, and it's weird because a lot of these religions that worship the sun and whatnot, you know, they think the sun is like type of god, but it's like, maybe they might have been onto something accidentally, if that makes sense, right? Like, there could have been some type of connotation, you know? I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just like, I don't want to say that they're like intertwined with Christianity, but I don't think it will be right to say that they believe in the same God, because a lot of these religions that believe in like the sun is a god, you know, because the sun is simply a creation of God. So I can't really say that these religions are intertwined with Christianity and the other Abrahamic religions in some way, shape, or form, I guess. Now that I think about it, though, I don't know. I mean, it's just fun to think about, you know. It doesn't really hurt anything. It's quite fun, you know. Still, though, again, what I simply said was merely a theory. Let's continue.
Gods typically making some votive gift, one might thereby influence these forces. We also have many other famous deities, including Alat, a goddess of fertility, probably similar to and possibly even linked with Aphrodite of the Greek pantheon and the Ishtar of Mesopotamian mythology.
Interesting.
Alat is one of the deities that are mentioned the most in all of the rock carvings that have been found, and clearly played a major role for the ancient Arabs. She's also one of the 3 goddesses that are actually mentioned in the Quran itself, alongside Mana'at and Al-Uzza, although recent scholarship suggests that the latter may have been identical to Alat and simply been a kind of title for this goddess.
Here's the big...
Another central deity appears to have been Rudau, associated with the moon and sometimes considered the father of Alat. Rudau was a powerful god who was particularly associated with the region of Chaldea in southern Mesopotamia. We also have Baal Samim, or...
You want to know a fun fact, actually? The moon is literally just the remnants of Earth and another planet that crashed into Earth when their solar system was forming years ago, actually. The planet was called Thea. Crashed into Earth, and, you know, when something obviously crashed into it, there's going to be debris, and simply what happened was the debris collected into one giant ball from the Earth, and the planet that crashed into the Earth, and, you know, the Earth, it basically got trapped into Earth's gravity, And yeah, that's how the moon became a thing. So the moon, every time you look at the moon, you're basically just looking at a piece of Earth and a piece of another planet that crashed into the Earth. So yeah, that's an interesting fact.
Or simply Baal, a deity of rain and storm, whose name we recognize from the king.
And this is also why, the moon is like habitable. Because it's just debris, like it's just debris that all collected into one.
Canaanite religion as depicted in the Bible. In any case, these are just a few examples of the many different gods that the Arabs would worship. As Hoyland suggested, these gods could be invoked for many different reasons. Most commonly, probably mundane things like good health or to help with various troubles in life. Take, for example, rock inscriptions such as these. Quote,
Does that say
Rudau,
Poland?
help Aib with that which he desires. Or, O Alat, daughter of Rudau, deliver so-and-so from the year of war. Indeed, most of the rock carvings from ancient Arabia contains prayers like this. Prayers asking the gods for protection or security from their enemies or from other misfortunes. As I said earlier, certain gods could be associated with a specific tribe and act as the protector of that tribe, while other gods would be more universal and worshipped across a wider population, including gods like Alat and Rudau that I have mentioned. But we also find, of course, regional preferences, since the tribes and the various groups of Arabia differed on a number of accounts. So we find certain gods that are specifically popular in southern Arabia, while other gods are more popular in northern Arabia, and so on. It was a diverse religious context or environment. We should also keep in mind not only that Arabia is a large place that contains many different groups that differed on a number of accounts, but also that the population of Arabia could live different lives. So some people, some Arabs were nomads who moved around, lived in desert environments and so on, while others lived in developed city environments. And these different circumstances also, of course, affected the religious traditions and religious practices that the Arabs would partake in. Now, aside from these prayers, the deities were worshipped through various different rites. The worshippers or servants, called abd in Arabic, could make offerings to the gods, probably things such as food and so on, like in many other polytheistic traditions. Like in so many other cultures.
And this is a thing, and this is why Jesus was... Oh, bloody hell. Oopsies. Accidentally hit my camera. And this is why Jesus was so necessary. This is why Jesus makes so much sense to me, because... it's like, bro, all these people worshiping all these gods and whatnot. It's like, my brother in Christ, you gotta like show like definitive proof that, yo, there's this God is the actual God, not this, right? Not that. So it's like, I even asked Muslims, why do you think that Jesus was a fake, the one that was crucified? And I haven't really got a definitive answer, a convincing answer, really and truly. It's like, when you objectively speaking, when you look at it, it does make sense for Jesus to have been the Son of God. Like, it does. In fact, when God returns and Judgment Day comes, the whole point of Jesus, really and truly, not just to show that, God is real, no, and not only was he there to just sacrifice himself for us, but like, since Jesus is basically a piece of God sent into mortal form, God, you can't really make any excuses to God when he's judging you, like, oh, you wouldn't understand because you weren't, like, you haven't gone through what I went through on earth. He did through Jesus, bro. I mean, regardless where in the Bible it says this, but literally, that's why in the Bible it literally states, yeah, everything that you're going through, every hardship that you're going through, I went through, I experienced, I completely understand it, right? Because and it makes sense. It does. So you can't really look at God and really actually make any argument for that, because he's just going to look at you and just be like, well, I also went through the same thing too. Like, so what's going on there, right? Right? Like, not only that, but God understands us. Okay, it helps God understands us too. All of us that's going through hardship, right? So this is why, like, Jesus coming down on earth makes sense. It makes sense. I makes sense. It's kind of interesting how Muslims view Jesus, but it does make way more sense the way how Christianity views Jesus. I mean, that's just my opinion. I'm yapping a lot.
Of antiquity, animal sacrifice appears to have played a major role in their religious rites. Animals, often camels, would be sacrificed before major events or to aid in the effectiveness of certain prayers, for example. As we saw earlier, there were...
You saw that lady in the ad? Okay, unrelated. I know you saw that ad. You see her skin tone? I want you to do me a favor, right? Compare my current skin tone to hers, and please tell me if I look remotely similar to her, okay? Because I'm also seeing a bunch of comments from people who are like, you don't look mixed, when I clearly do look mixed. Like, your idea of black is honestly wrong. Like, so I just a bit off topic, but just gotta dispel that, because I'm seeing this a lot from both my European audience and my Muslim audience as well. Okay, hilariously enough. And you wanna know what's funny actually is that if I lived in a colder place, I would look way more light than this. I just constantly have high UV radiation hitting me, so my body is protecting itself, and well, that's the whole point of pigmentation. Low.
There were also shrines dedicated to specific deities located in locations all around Arabia, and this is connected to another one of the most central and important rituals or rites or practices of the pre-Islamic Arabs, which was the pilgrimage. Pilgrimages, referred to as Hajj, just like in the Islamic equivalent, would be undertaken to a shrine at a specific time during the yearly calendar, like an annual festival.
Mansa Musa was a Muslim, and when he went on his pilgrimage, he used black West African slaves, by the way. I just want to point that out, okay, to all the people who are crying about you Christian Europeans enslaved your ancestors, even though my ancestors, some of them anyways, were already slaves by the Africans and simply sold off.
Festival or celebration. These shrines or special places were referred to as haram, or sanctuaries, where all forms of violence were forbidden. Presumably, one of these common shrines that were visited by pilgrims was the Kaaba in Mecca, something that the Islamic tradition itself affirms. The classic narrative...
I swear, isn't the Kaaba technically a sin? If you look at it from a Christian point of view? I swear, I don't know if I'm tripping, but I swear there was a verse in the Bible that talks about man-made stuff. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm tripping, I don't know. Oh, buddy, I accidentally made the video.
By Abraham himself, served as an important site of pilgrimage for people across Arabia, and that it housed the images of many different gods in the broader pantheon, before, of course, being liberated and once again dedicated to the one monotheistic God by Muhammad and the arrival of Islam. And our information about the general practices of pilgrimage in pre-Islamic times seems to corroborate this story. Other connections or similarities to the later Islamic tradition can be found in the rules relating to ritual purity. So before going on a pilgrimage or praying to a god, or really before any kind of religious rite, the worshipper was expected to make ablutions and to purify himself and wash himself to enter a state of ritual purity. In general, we find that the religion of ancient Arabia is one that is in some ways familiar to an antique Middle Eastern context. There are other beliefs and practices that we don't have too much information about. For example, and as we have explored in a previous episode, the Arabs believed in other mysterious beings such as the jinn, ghost-like figures who would hang around abandoned ruins and dark places.
Nah.
We also know
No. Oh my god. Look, it is 2 a.m. in the morning. I'm literally in a room by myself. No, I have to go and sleep after this video. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get sleep paralysis. Oh my gosh, bro. No. I literally got sleep paralysis, like, what was it, like 2 nights ago, or literally like last night or some. Oh my gosh, I do not need to hear this right now. I have work in the morning too. Oh damn. Oh my gosh. No. And you know what? I'm pretty sure some of you are going to get sleep paralysis from thinking about the fact that I got sleep paralysis. So you're welcome.
There's occult practices such as divination.
We suffer together.
The evil eye. Poetry played a major role in the lives of the ancient Arabs, and poets were sometimes considered to be inspired by the divine beings to recite their verses, becoming almost like messengers for the gods. But even in less extravagant circumstances, poetry served an important function of storytelling and a literary form that held the highest of esteem in this culture. The most famous collection of pre-Islamic poetry, the Mu'allaqat, or hanging poems, is another important source for the culture and traditions of the Arabs at this time, as well as being some of the greatest literary achievements in the Arabic language. But so far I've only talked about polytheism, with gods like Allat and Ruda and so on. But as it turns out, the religious landscape of ancient Arabia was a lot more complicated than that. And there were a lot of different religious traditions and movements that actually coexisted on this peninsula, especially in the last few centuries before the arrival of Islam. And this includes, as we will see, various forms of monotheism. Indeed, as we saw in the beginning, Arabia was very much involved in the wider political and social context of the Middle East at the time.
Nah, bruh. Bro, oh my god. My head is playing with me, bruh. No, yo. I wish I did not hear that right now. Oh my gosh. Hold on a second. I might have to go lock my door real quick, bruh. Now I'm going to complete the video.
Including the cultures of the two great empires. By the 4th to 5th century, there existed many different religious groups on the Arabian Peninsula, including many Jewish tribes as well as Christians of various different denominations. Indeed, the Ghazanids, who were often vassals to the Byzantine Empire, followed a Monophysite Christianity, and it is quite likely that there lived Christian groups further inside the peninsula as well, even if they weren't as numerous as the Jews. To a lesser degree, but still significant, there were also Zoroastrians living in Arabia at the time. So we get the picture of a quite diverse and complex religious milieu. Monotheism was actually quite common in Arabia at this time. But of course, this could differ from region to region and from different cities. For example, it seems that the city of Mecca was largely polytheistic, while the city of Yathrib, which later became known as Medina, housed a large amount of
Mecca. Woo! I gotta react to more Prophet Muhammad
Jewish monotheistic communities.
That reminds me.
And the presence of monotheism in Arabia can also be seen very clearly in a lot of the archaeological evidence that we have. There even seems to have been monotheistic communities in Arabia that were neither Jewish nor Christian, but who considered themselves as belonging to a primeval, original monotheism of Abraham. In the Islamic tradition, this independent monotheistic community or group is known as the Hanifiya, although there is less evidence for them in the archaeological record.
Oh, I have some people telling me about that in my religion in Arabia, and some people, most of people, they just simply said, and those people were irrelevant, basically, in a nutshell.
Perspective, and putting aside theological perspectives or narratives, we can see where some of these central aspects of the later Islamic religion comes from, including the name Allah for God, as well as other names. The primary name of God in Islam is Allah. The precise etymological origins of the name has been debated, but the majority...
Oh my gosh, I had Christians in my comments telling me Muslims don't believe in the same God. When I said it's funny, it's in my crusade reactions, and they're like, Muslims don't believe in the same God as Christianity. I'm like, bro. And they were like being practical and freaking nerd emoji, bro. Like, can't even lie, bro. I can't even make this up. Even though I'm a Christian, like, come on, that's too far. Like, yeah, Muslims believe in the same God as us. They just simply have a different perspective. Okay, like, boom, there. Like, please do not say that Muslims don't believe in the same God. Like, if you look at me and you say Muslims believe in God the wrong way, I would be more willing to accept that. But to say that they don't believe in the same God and they believe in a completely different God is just wrong. It's very, very wrong. Very, very ignorant.
Majority of scholars, I would say even Muslims and non-Muslims, agree that it is probably an abbreviated form of al-ilah, meaning literally the God. Ilah being the Arabic word for God or divinity, and al being the definite article. And the archaeological record actually supports...
Arabic doesn't really seem that hard. The alphabet does make it seem hard, though. That's how I felt when I started to learn Russian. The Russian alphabet made Russian seem hard, but the more I actually dig deeper and learn Russian, the more I realize this language isn't really as hard as people make it out to be. But the thing about Arabic is that Arabic is completely foreign to me. I swear my brain is playing tricks with me. Ever since I heard that ghost shit, bro, shit, I can't leave my room. I'm supposed to brush my teeth after this video. Nah, bruh. Nah. Bruh, that's why I said I did not want to see that. I did not want to see that ghost thing. Shit. I'm just gonna unpause the video. Yo, you think I'm joking? You think I'm joking?
It's this. We have inscriptions by North Arabian Christians in pre-Islamic times that refer to their god precisely as Al-Ilah. And similarly, in southern Arabia, what is today Yemen, there appears to have been a period of monotheistic flourishing, either through the influence of Judaism and its adoption by the state, or through some independent form of monotheism. And in this South Arabian context, the monotheistic god was referred to as Rahmanan. Now, in the South Arabian dialect, the definite article was not the prefix al, as in the northern equivalent or in classical Arabic, but rather the suffix an. So, if we transpose the name Rahmanan to classical Arabic, this name for God becomes Ar-Rahman, another one of the most primary names of God in Islam. And moreover, in this South Arabian context, God was also, very tellingly, called Ilahan, or through transposing, Al-Ilah.
So interesting.
Deviated form.
It's intriguing to me how Arabic has definite articles too. But yet, Arabic isn't Indo-European. I know every single language in the world has to be descended from one language, bruh. Although, if you do believe the Bible and you look at things from a Christian view, you should believe that everyone indeed did speak one language before God decided, yeah, that gotta change.
Allah appears to have been the result of a certain Arabic dialect in western or northwestern Arabia, including perhaps the Hijaz. But we do find examples of this abbreviated form, Allah, in earlier evidence as well. In the Nabatean kingdom of northern Arabia, we find examples of the name Allah, both as parts of personal names like Abdullah, and indeed Abdullah was, according to tradition, the name of the Prophet Muhammad's own father. But we also see the name Allah.
I swear the name Abdul is such a meme name to me. I'm sorry. Every time I hear Abdul, I get the wrong idea. I have such a stereotype for that name. I'm not even going to elaborate. If you are able to figure it out, congratulations.
Allah used independently in various prayers and rock carvings in the Nabatean script, even though it is quite rare. There is this inscription, for example, which states, quote, وَأَسْلَيَا وَأَقْسَمَ بِاللَّهِ حَيْلَ حَدَيَا عَزِيمًا, which translates to, he made a burnt offering and swore by Allah who is living that he shall command with greatness. But the name Allah is also sometimes invoked alongside other deities. Quote, and he placed it under the protection of Kahil, Allah, and Attar of the east from strong and weak, and purchase and pledge for all time. So what does this mean? Well, in the Islamic tradition, there is often the idea that the pre-Islamic Arabs did worship Allah, but that they did so alongside other lesser deities, and that this is the origins of the concept of shirk, or of associating partners with God, which is the greatest sin in the Islamic religion. Many scholars today even argue that the group referred to as the mushrikun in the Quran, usually translated as the polytheist, might actually be referring to other monotheistic groups that nonetheless did not follow a monotheism that was as strict as that of the Prophet Muhammad. In any case, what the archaeological evidence shows is that the name Allah did exist as a name for God in ancient times. Some scholars, including Al-Jalad, argue that the use of the word Allah in the polytheistic context may have simply referred to the most exalted God in a particular context. In any case, it seems clear, however, that the name derives from the title Al-Ilah, or the God, so commonly invoked by Christian inscriptions and in southern Arabia as well. Many features that would later become so important for the religion of Islam do appear in pre-Islamic Arabia, both in polytheistic and monotheistic contexts. We have maybe even found an example of the Bismillah in a pre-Islamic inscription. In 2018, an inscription was found in the Adali region of Yemen, which seems to either say, taking transposing from South Arabian dialect into account, quote, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim Rabb as-Samwat, which would translate as, in the name of God, the merciful and compassionate Lord of the heavens. With the exception of the last part, Lord of the heavens, this is the formula that starts every Quranic chapter or surah except for one, and is a major aspect of the Islamic religion. However, this is actually quite uncertain. The inscription may in fact instead say, quote, Bismillah ar-Rahman irhamma Rabb as-Samwat, which would instead translate to, in the name of God, the merciful, have mercy upon us, Lord of the heavens. And this would clearly echo the words of the Bible.
I'm trying to look at this. I'm trying to think, I'm trying to translate this word to word. I know you can't really do this, but trying to see how hard does Arabic seem. And my goodness gracious, man, I don't know. Let me see here. Bismillah al-Rahman is the God, I think, right? So Bismillah in the name, or in name the God, or the God, no, in name the God, merciful. What the hell? Yeah, you see this you can't even, what? How does this make any sense? Why, bro? Or is it like they're combining words or something? Well, I don't even know. No. I'm not even gonna yap right now. I gotta go work.
In any case, we are clearly dealing with a monotheistic invocation here, one that makes sense in the context of southern Arabia at the time, which had a strong flourishing of monotheism. Remember the name of God, Rahmanan or Ar-Rahman, being used commonly in the region at this time and reappearing in this particular invocation, as well as being under Christian rule at the time of the inscription's composition. So the inscription makes sense in a lot of ways.
We all hate ads, that's a fact.
You can see that Arabia by the time of the Prophet Muhammad was a melting pot of various different religious and intellectual traditions. While the polytheism or paganism was probably the religion practiced by the majority of the population, there were still very strong monotheistic communities, including Jewish groups, Christians, as well as maybe even independent monotheistic groups like the Hanifiya that's talked about in the Islamic tradition. Clearly then, things aren't as simple as the narrative that I presented at the beginning, and we can perhaps begin to understand the context in which a prophet by the name of Muhammad would appear on the scene and change world history. I hope you enjoyed this dive into ancient Arabia and its religion.
Yes! I enjoyed it.
Religious traditions. A lot of the material used here was based on the works of the epigraphist, philologist, and historian of language Ahmed al-Jalad, whose works I highly recommend you check out.
Cool. If you want me to go and react to some of his stuff, sure, why not?
I will leave a list of sources in the description.
Oh, wow, he's actually listing sources. Oh, wow, that's actually quite cool. Wow, amazing! A person who actually like the sources in the world. Anyways, man, you made it to the end of the video. Make sure you go like and subscribe. You like my reactions. Go subscribe and go check out my other reactions. I have plenty of reactions on Islam and Arabia and all that stuff at this point on my channel. If you have any suggestions, go comment down below. Like and subscribe. Yeah, I gotta go and edit this video and then go get sleep paralysis when I go and sleep. Goodbye.